بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. To the best of my knowledge, this is the ninth of al-Qaʿdah, the ninth. I think it's the ninth night of the month of al-Qaʿdah. The ninth night of the month of al-Qaʿdah, 1,434 years after the Hijrah, corresponding with September 15th, 2013 CE. And we're here in New York at Masjid al-Iman wal-Hikmah. Before we begin, I would like to say, in response to what our brother Abu Yusuf Khalifa Abdullah Ta'ala said, our beloved Sheikh Muhammad Nasr al-Din al-Albani rahimahullah, when people used to say things similar to what our brother Khalifa just said about me, he said that we have a saying, and of course he wasn't an Arab, but he grew up amongst the Arabs. He said we have a saying that we had in Syria where he grew up, which is إِنَّ الْبُغَاضَ بِأَرْضِنَا يَسْتَنْصِرُ. That indeed the bughath, indeed the small worthless bird, a bughath is a bird that it doesn't prey on birds, nor do birds like to prey on that bird. It's just a useless bird. So he says that the Arabs have this saying, إِنَّ الْبُغَاضَ بِأَرْضِنَا يَسْتَنْصِرُ. That indeed this small worthless bird in our land has now become like an eagle. And the Arabs, they use this, that when someone who's lowly, the people or he himself, has pushed him up to a status that he doesn't deserve. In other words, as we say here in America, things have been switched around. So I say this, that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has tested me with what our brother Abu Yusuf said. But as I told one of the brothers sitting here now, that, for me, I'm like a dinosaur now. I'm a dinosaur because all those years of calling the people to Tawheed, that is the non-Muslim, and trying to call the Muslims by the permission of Allah to the Sunnah and Salafiyah, those years are gone by. And we have a lot of young brothers, that are now pushing forward, this effort. And all we can say is that, the baton has to be passed to them. And we just make dua for those people who may be known or may not be known. And one of them, I'd like to take this opportunity to say, one of them that was probably not that known to the vast majority of you who ascribe to this blessed Dāwūd, we just buried him just a few days ago. His name was Kareem rahimahullah. He was the first imam of the masjid when I was the imam in Brooklyn, New York at Masjid Muslimin. He was the first imam of that masjid upon Salafiyah, Kareem. He lived not too far from me. Not too far from me. They just buried him a few days ago. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on him. This is one of the brothers. He was in his 60s, a little bit older than me. Brothers don't know about him. And he is an integral part of the history of this blessed da'wah in the United States of America. A lot of brothers don't know about him. So Allah blessed him, Allah favored him by not having notoriety, not being well known. As for myself, this is a fitna. And it's a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect me and to protect all of those brothers. With that, we like to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed the human being, and He has favored the human being with technology. There are things that we have now in these advancements in technology that allow us to do things that people of the distant past weren't able to do. When some of the a'imma, the imams, and the ulama, and the fuqaha, and the scholars of hadith, muhaddithun, when they used to search for some ilm, and more specifically a hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they used to have to get on a boat, a ship, and travel thousands of nautical miles. They used to have to get on a horse or a camel and travel great distances to get the narrations of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some of them we have even from the books of biography. They used to send carrier pigeons to gain and receive information, or to impart information and knowledge. Today, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed the human being and favored the human being, where now we have fax machines, now we have the telephone, now we have the internet, the texting, emails, etc. And there are other things, and it's becoming more advanced and more advanced, where a piece of information for the brother who's in Lagos, Nigeria, he can send one piece of information, one piece of news to someone in Tibet. It will reach him in seconds. It will reach him in seconds. On one side, this is a great, great favor, a great blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the other side, it can be a very tumultuous, horrendous curse upon the human being, more specifically the Muslim. So we like to begin by saying that undoubtedly, in these times of tribulation, in these times of test from Allah, and that's what the dunya is about. The dunya is Dāwūd al-ibtilā'i wal-fitan. It is the abode of trials and tribulations. There's no doubt whatsoever that the times that we're living in, times of tribulation, there's a lot of propaganda, a lot of information, and a lot of excitement. And because of that, there are a lot of rumors. So this evening, for the next 45 or 50 minutes, then we'll continue tomorrow. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We'd like to talk about the obligation, because there's been a lot of talk about, which is the theme, obligations. We want to talk about the obligation of verifying news. The obligation in Islam, according to the Quran and the Sunnah, the pure Sunnah, about verifying news. Because rumors are all over the place. It's well known that verifying news, the scholars of Islam said, that verifying news is required according to the Sharia. It is required to verify information and news is required. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu in ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyanu an tusibu qawman bijahala wa tusbihu ala ma fa'altum nadimin. The interpretation of the meaning of this ayah found in Surah Al-Hujurat, chapter 49, ayah, or as they call it, verse number 6. The interpretation of the meaning of this ayah, O you who believe. And we know that when you hear, this is what the Sahaba taught us, that when you hear a verse or an ayah from the book of Allah that says, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, O you who have iman, O you who have believed. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud and others from amongst the Sahaba, Radwanullahi alayhim ajma'een, they say that when you hear, "O you who believe," that you should give ear to it. You should pay close attention to it. Because after, "O you who believe," in general, what's going to happen is, there's either going to be a commandment, or there's going to be a prohibition. Allah is commanding you to do something right after. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu. Because Allah is calling us by our iman. He's beckoning us by our iman. He's not calling us by our name. He's not saying, "Ya Fatima." He's not saying, "Ya Hussein." He's not saying, "Ya Dāwūd." He's not saying, "Ya Hisham," "Ya Khalil," "Ya Abdul Kareem." He's saying, "O you who believe." He's calling us by that which is inside of our hearts. So Ibn Mas'ud, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said you should listen to it, because after that is going to come a command, or it's going to come a prohibition. The interpretation of the meaning of this verse is, "O you who believe." When a fasiq, and we leave it untranslated, when a fasiq comes to you with any news, then verify it, lest you should harm the people from what? Jahala, ignorance. And afterwards, you become regretful for what you have done. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send down the laws, the legislation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has issued a stern, severe warning against passing all that the person hears. Hafs, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that is Hafs ibn Asim, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he says, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم كفى بالمرء كذبا أن يحدث بكل ما سمع. Hadith collected by Imam Muslim and others. Hafs ibn Asim, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the noble companion, he said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam said, "It is enough lying. It is sufficient lying for a man to speak of everything that he hears." To speak of everything that he hears. And as we mentioned, this is collected by the noble Imam Muslim, rahimahullah ta'ala. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: كفى بالمرء إثما أن يحدث بكل ما سمع. Abu Hurairah رضي الله تعالى عنه, he said, or from him, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, it is enough sin. In the first narration, lying. In the second narration, sin. It is enough sin for a man to speak of everything that he hears. It is enough sin for a man to speak of everything that he hears. قال النووي رحمه الله تعالى, Imam al-Nawawi, and as our Shaykh Salih bin Abdul Aziz al-Shaykh, he said, it is also permissible to call Imam al-Nawawi al-Nawawi. Al-Nawawi. So you can say al-Nawawi. So if the brother says al-Nawawi, you shouldn't say, "Man, you're mubtadi'," or "You made a mistake," or "Something is wrong with you." You don't even know how to pronounce his name. You can say either al-Nawawi or al-Nawawi. Imam al-Nawawi or al-Nawawi, rahimahullah ta'ala. He says, فَإِنَّهُ يَصْنَعُ فِي الْعَادَةِ الصِّدْقَ وَالْكَذِبَ فإذا حدث بكل ما سمع فقد كذب لإخباره بما لم يكن. والكذب الإخبار عن الشيء بخلاف ما هو ولا يشترط فيه التعمد. He said, usually a person hears truth and lies. So if he speaks of everything that he hears, he's lying. If he speaks of everything that he hears, he's lying. If she speaks of everything that she reads in the email or the text message,
then she's lying. He's lying by telling of things that did not happen, and lying by speaking of something other than the way it happened. And he does not have to do that ta'amudan. He does not. She does not have to do that deliberately in order to be regarded as telling lies. And that's what's happening today, brothers and sisters. As soon as we get the text message, sin, push the send button, it's gone. Can't call it back. You didn't even verify it. As soon as you get the email, it's gone. You push send, it's finished. It went all the way to Russia. It went all the way to China. It went all the way to Australia. It went all the way to Canada. You can't call that email back. You didn't verify. So you're considered, but now we said. Because many of us, unfortunately, we have relied on Sheikh Google ibn Yahoo. That's our Sheikh. Sheikh Google ibn Yahoo. وعن المغيرة بن شعبة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال النبي صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم إن الله حرم عليك عقوق الأمهات وولد البنات ومنع وهات وكره لكم قيل وقال وكثرة السؤال وإضاعة المال رواه البخاري أو كما قاله صلى الله عليه وسلم. المغيرة بن شعبة radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Allah has forbidden you to disobey your mothers. Singled out the mothers from the fathers. Not to say that you can disobey your fathers, but singled out the mothers from the fathers in this narration. He has forbidden you to disobey your mothers, to bury your daughters alive, to not pay the rights of others, and to beg from others. And he dislikes gossip for you, asking too many questions and wasting money. وقال الحافظ ابن حجر العسقلاني رحمه الله تعالى قوله وكره لكم قيل وقال قال المحب الطبري رحمه الله تعالى وفي معنى الحديث ثلاثة أوجه. Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar rahimahullah, he said, with regards to the words وَكَرِهَ لَكُمْ قِيلَ وَقَالَ, he dislikes gossip. He dislikes, he said, she said, or he said, it was said. He says that Al-Muhib al-Tabari rahimahullah ta'ala said about this, there are three aspects or three viewpoints to the meaning of that specific hadith and that specific wording. وَكَرِهَ لَكُمْ قِيلَ وَقَالَ, and he dislikes for you, he said, she said, or he said it was said. The first aspect that could be derived and accepted from this, Al-Muhib al-Tabari says, that it indicates that it's makruh, it's disliked, to speak too much because it leads to mistakes. And that's exactly what the ulama al sunnah say. من كثر كلامه كثر خطأه ومن كثر خطأه كثر إثمه. When a person speaks a lot, he makes mistakes a lot. If he makes mistakes a lot, he will sin a lot. So the first aspect, he says, is that it indicates that it's makruh, it's disliked to speak too much because it leads to mistakes. The second, that it refers to wanting to pass on what people say and looking for that in order to tell others so that one can say, so-and-so said such and such, and so-and-so said such and such was said. He says the prohibition in the second aspect. The prohibition on this is either a rebuke for doing too much of it, or it refers to a particular type of talk which the person spoken of dislikes to have mentioned. Number three, that it refers to narrating differences of opinion concerning religious matters, such as saying, this one said such and such, and that one said such and such. He went on and he said, the reason why that this is disliked is that speaking of such matters may lead to mistakes. He said this applies especially to those who transmit such views without verifying them, merely imitating those whom they hear without exercising any caution. He says, so I say, this is supported by the Sahih Hadith. It is enough sin for a man to speak of everything that he hears. وَعَنْ أَبِي قِلَابَةٍ, and some say it is قَلَابَةٍ, and some say it is قُلَابَةٍ, and Allah Ta'ala أعلم. وعن أبي قلابة قال أبو مسعود لأبي عبد الله، أو قال أبو عبد الله لأبي مسعود، ما سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم يقول في زعموا. قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول بقية الرجل زعموا. بئس بقية الرجل زعموا. It was narrated that Abu Qalaba said that Abu Mas'ud said, or that Abu Abdullah said to Abu Mas'ud, what did you hear the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saying? They said, he said, I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saying, how bad is it for a man to keep saying, they said. They say. قال العظيم آبادي رحمه الله بئس مطية الرجل المطية بمعنى المرغوب. الزعم قريب من الظن، أي أسوأ عادة من الرجل أن يتخذ لفظ الزعم مركبا إلى مقاصده فيخبر عن أمر التقليد من غير تثبت فيخطئ ويجرب عليه الكذب. قال له المناوي العظيم آبادي رحمه الله تعالى. He said, this means it is a bad way to reach one's objectives by saying they say. Saying they say is tantamount to conjecture. It's akin to conjecture. That is, the worst habit of a man is to use the phrase they say, meaning to serve his own purposes. So he tells of something, merely repeating what others have said without verifying it, and thus he transmits lies. And this was also the view of Imam al-Manawi, and some say his name is pronounced al-Munawi, and Allah knows best. Therefore, brothers and sisters, as-Salaf as-Salih, our rightly guided predecessors and forefathers, they were keen to establish truth, and they were weary of rumors. They made the people beware of rumors, and they themselves took the stance to stay away from gossip and rumors. And Umar, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, beware of fitna. For a word at the time of fitna could be as devastating as the sword. Beware of fitna, for indeed a word at the time of fitna could be as devastating as the sword. So brothers and sisters, when we look at history, we look at the history of Islam. The history of Islam, the ulama say, shows us the danger, the extreme danger of gossip and rumors, especially when they're spread amongst the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. These are some examples of the danger that has happened in Islamic history of the past. لما هاجر الصحابة من مكة إلى الحبشة وكانوا في أمان أشيع أن كفار قريش في مكة أسلموا فخرج بعض الصحابة من الحبشة وتكبدوا على الطريق حتى وصلوا إلى مكة ووجدوا الخبر غير صحيح وذاقوا من صناديد قريش التكذيب وكل ذلك بسبب الإشاعة. One example, and there are many, one example of the danger of rumors in the distant days of our history of Islam is when the Sahaba, radwanullahi alayhim ajma'een, migrated from Mecca to al-Habasha. Anybody here from al-Habasha? Have one brother, two brothers, three brothers from al-Habasha. The brothers who were not from al-Habasha. Anybody know where al-Habasha is now? What is it called now? Ethiopia. But the old name was what? Abyssinia. Abyssinia, right? Abyssinia. So that was the first what? The Muslims went there from Mecca. That was the first, what is that called? Hijrah. How many times was there Hijrah at the time of the Prophet? Anybody knows? A lot of stuff. Huh? 3. Some people think it's 2, but it was 3. The first one was from where to where? From Mecca to Abyssinia. No, Mecca to Abyssinia. The second one? Mecca to Abyssinia a second time. That's right. And the third one? Mecca to Al-Medina. And after that, there is no more Hijrah. Right? So why did you go to Yemen? There's no more Hijrah. Why did you go to Yemen? Why did you go to Egypt? Why did you go to Morocco? Why did you go to Kuwait? There's no more Hijrah. That means there's a misunderstanding of that narration from the Prophet on behalf of some of us, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, "La hijrata ba'da al-fath." There's no hijrah after the conquest of Mecca. So there's a misunderstanding, right? If he said that there's no hijrah, that means we all stay in America, right? Right? Based on our understanding, if we took it literally and not went to the ulama, understand what that narration means, what you're going to ask me, I'm not going to tell you, you're going to get one of the other brothers to tell you, right? There will be no hijrah. I'm going to do the same thing that our brothers did before me. Ask the brother who comes after me. So when the Sahaba migrated from Mecca to now known as Ethiopia, they were in a state of what? Safety. The Prophet ﷺ told them to do what? Go to Al-Habasha, because there was a man who was what? He was just, right? He was fair. Was he a Muslim? That's a beautiful benefit. It's a beautiful benefit. Here's a person who is not a Muslim that he considered just and fair. So the Sahaba migrated from Mecca to Ethiopia, and they were safe. But then a rumor spread. A rumor was sent out. In our day, a text message was sent out. An email was sent out. A telephone call was made. A fax was sent. For our modern times. It was sent out what? That the Quraysh had embraced Islam in Mecca. That the Quraysh took Shahada, as we said. So some of the Sahaba left Ethiopia and traveled until they got back to Mecca, and they found out that the news was not true. What happened to you, brothers? I'm asking the question. What happened? What happened to those Sahaba? Some of those Sahaba that left. They were tortured and killed. Some of them were tortured, and some of them were tortured until they died. Because of one what? Rumor that was not verified. Not verified. Not verified. This is what we hear about. Even the ulama, people are saying things about the ulama. No verification. Saying things about the noble scholars of Islam who are the inheritors of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I should say. Saying things about the brothers who are doing this work of Dāwūd with no verification whatsoever. Saying things about the students with no verification. People just accept it. They just accept it. And not only do they accept it, They transmit that information without tathabbut, without tabayyun, without verification to even see if it's true or not. So when those companions, they left Abyssinia, went back to Mecca, thinking that that information was true, without verifying. Some of them were tortured, and some of them were killed at the hands of Quraysh, all because of rumor. في غزوة أحد لما قتل مصعب بن عمير وشيع أنه الرسول صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم وقيل قتل رسول الله. A second example of danger during the battle of Uhud, when Mus'ab ibn Umair radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was killed, the noble companion. There was a rumor that it was the messenger of Allah himself, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that in fact was killed. The reality is that it wasn't the messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So the army of Islam withdrew, meaning the army of Islam, the Mujahideen, withdrew from the battlefield in the battle of Uhud because of one rumor. And some of them fled to Medina, and some of them stopped fighting altogether because of one rumor. One rumor. And we know as kids, we learned this in school. Some of us have probably done this exercise of not having good narrations or passing good narrations. Some of us probably remember when we were in school. You get a line in the class, you line against the wall, and the person will say to the person, he whisper in that person's ear, Sally had a brown dress with polka dots. And the next person would say, when to the next person's ear. And then they go all around the room. By the time they got to the end of the room, it was Jane had a yellow dress with stripes. Right? We know how it is. We know how it is. For transmitting narrations, some of us, if not many of us, are very, very weak when it comes to transmitting evidence. We have a very bad problem with transmitting the news and information properly. A third example, there was the rumor of the slander, the story of the slander of Aisha, radiallahu anha, who of course we know was pure and innocent. Pure and innocent. She was accused of an act that unmentionable, immoral act, which led to the distress felt by the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself and the Muslims who were with him. And all of this was due to rumors. So the question is, brothers, what is the proper methodology? What is the proper methodology of dealing with information or news, more specifically news? The ulama have laid down some methods. The first one is at-ta'anni wa tarawwi. The first, we just want to remind the brothers that when you yawn, be careful. Please cover your mouths because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has informed us that if you do not cover your mouth, Shaitan goes inside of you. We don't know how Shaitan goes inside of us. All we know is that Sallallahu Messenger of Allah speaks the truth. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We're really not that concerned of how it happens. We're just concerned that it not happen. So remember to cover your mouth, even if you're in the prayer. Even if you're in the prayer, cover your mouth. Don't do like this. Like people, I don't know what Shaitan, maybe Shaitan just move their hands like this and do like this. Actually cover it. Cover it up so Shaitan doesn't go inside us. We do not need, in these days and times, definitely, we do not need Shaitan going inside us. In any day and time, we don't need Shaitan going inside us. So the first, when dealing with news, the first thing we need to do is have a ta'anni, deliberation. A ta'anni. For the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that ta'anni bin Allah wa la'ajalatu min ash-shaytan. That deliberation is from Allah, and hastiness is from the shaitan. It's from the shaitan. We have to be deliberate. So when you get the information, when you get the news, if someone calls you on the phone and they say, did you hear what happened? Did you hear that? No, I didn't hear it. So before you transmit that information, you pick up the phone and call somebody else, or before you send that email, or you forward it to someone, or you push send on the text on your phone, you should have a enemy. You should stop in your tracks. True? Did it actually happen? And as a side note to that, even if the person is trustworthy, all trustworthy, listen closely, brothers and sisters. Everybody that's trustworthy doesn't mean they have accuracy in their narrative. Just because they're trustworthy and they're not known to lie, that doesn't mean that they're accurate. A person can be trustworthy and not a liar, but they may not have accuracy in the information or the news that they're imparting to you. So the person may say to you, such and such happened, such and such happened, such and such happened. You should say to them, are you sure? Are you positive? Yes. You don't believe me? I'm not physical with you? I'm not trustworthy? You think I'm a liar? I'm telling you. I'm going to share something with you, brothers. You probably have heard me say it. I'm going to say it again. And then one of the reasons why I'm saying it again is because this was done a few days after 9/11. Now, how many years ago now? September 11th, that event happened. That horrendous, terrible event that we hate. 12 years ago? 12 years ago. About 3 days after that event, I was talking to one of the brothers on the phone, whom many of us consider fiqh, trustworthy. Not known to be a liar, trustworthy. He said, I have a newspaper in my hand right now where it says that Michael Jordan said, telling you on the phone, Michael Jordan said, we should send bombs, America should bomb Mecca, bomb the Kaaba, for what they did to us here in America, New York. Should bomb the Kaaba. So are you sure? He says, I'm telling you, I got the paper in my hand right here, Dāwūd. It's right here. I said, are you absolutely sure? Because I was scheduled to do the khutbah at the masjid. So I wanted to talk about these things. I said, are you absolutely sure? He says, it says it right here. Michael Jordan said that. I get on the minbar because the brother was trustworthy. I didn't go behind it and verify it because it was trustworthy. I get on the minbar, and this recording now was all over the world. People still quote me from this. It's all over the world. I can't bring it back. I get on the minbar. In fact, we have some brothers that to this day, if they don't hear this, to this day I know they won't buy Air Jordan sneakers. They won't buy Air Jordan sneakers. I get on the minbar and I say, Michael Jordan, in the course of the khutbah, Michael Jordan said we should bomb America, should bomb Mecca, bomb the Kaaba. The brothers did Allah. Come to find out, that particular newspaper, which was Philadelphia Inquirer newspaper, it was a journalist named Michael Jackson. It was Michael Jordan. It was a journalist. It wasn't a famous basketball player. It was a journalist named Michael Jordan that worked for the Philadelphia Inquirer newspaper. Allah subhanahu. So the first thing is deliberation. At the end, we should be deliberate. We should be very, very slow in transmitting news. Very slow. Take your time. Make sure you check it out. And check it out again. And check it out again. And check it out again before you click send. Before you click forward. The second is the verifying the news itself. Because of the ayah in the book of Allah. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِنْ جَاءَكُمْ فَاسِقٌ بِنَبَإٍ فَتَبَيَّنُوا. O you who believe, when a facet, we can be better untranslated, when a facet comes to you with any news, then verify it. If we look at what the scholars of Islam, like Sheikh Muhammad Nasruddin al-Albani, he said, when you look at the reason why a verse was revealed. You'll know half of the explanation. You'll know half of the explanation. The reason why that verse in Surah what? Baqarah, what was that verse? What was the Surah name? Hujurat. Surah Al-Hujurat, chapter number what? Verse number what? 49:6. The reason why it was revealed is that the Prophet ﷺ sent the noble companion al-Walid ibn Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayth radiyallahu anhu to collect the zakat. To collect the zakat from those individuals who had just accepted Islam. What was the name of that tribe? Anybody know? Banu what? Banu Mustadaq. Banu Mustadaq. So he sent this companion as a messenger. Because he's a messenger for the messenger now. He sent him as a messenger to collect the zakat from them. When the news reached them, meaning when the news reached them that his noble companion al-Walid ibn Uqba radiyallahu anhu was on his way to collect the zakat from them, they were overjoyed. They rejoiced. Unfortunately, that's not the case for us today. For many of us, when we hear about paying zakat, we become sad. When we read about paying zakat, we don't have rejoice. We hold our zakat. But here are new Muslims, they are overjoyed that the Prophet ﷺ was sending someone to them to collect the zakat from them. They were extremely happy. So they came out to meet the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. When al-Walid heard that they had come out to meet him, he went back to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ and he said, "O Messenger of Allah ﷺ, قَدْ مَنَعُوا الصَّدَقَةَ." O Messenger of Allah ﷺ, they withheld the zakat. Anybody know the reason why he went back after getting halfway, or partway in the road? He didn't go all the way out to get the zakat. What is the reason why he turned around and went back to the Messenger of Allah and told him that? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes.
He just if his came to him that just get together even once he reached. So he afraid to get there because he heard already they get together, but for him just to kill him.
He said that the reason why he turned around, went back and told them that they didn't want to pay the zakat because he was afraid they were going to kill them. He heard the word to kill them. That's the reason? Anybody know? Anybody know? Before they embraced Islam, there was something going on between them, like a feud. He didn't want that to transpire. So he went back and told the Messenger of Allah, out of shyness, out of fear, he went back and told the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that they refused to pay the zakat. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he became angry. And while he was thinking about launching a campaign against them, the delegation from Banu Mustadaq came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, "O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we were told that your envoy returned after coming only halfway, and we were afraid that he came back because he received a message from you saying that you were angry with us. And we seek refuge with Allah from the anger of Allah and the anger of His Messenger." Firstly, they were happy about paying the zakat. Then they were concerned about Allah and His Messenger being angry with them, because they were so eager to carry out this pillar of Islam. Like I said, like some of us today, we're the opposite, unfortunately. Anyway, I can get around paying that zakat, and I hold it in my pocket at the end of the year. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala excused them. Allah excused them in His book and revealed that verse number 6 of the 49th chapter of the Quran, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا. Oh, you who believe, when a fasiq, again, untranslated, fasiq, when a fasiq comes to you with any news, then verify it. Then verify it. The ulama of Islam, they say what is meant by verifying is making the effort to find out the truth of the matter. That's the meaning of at-tathabbut. What is meant by verification is making the effort to find out the truth of the matter so as to establish whether this can be proven or not. So verifying, the ulama said, verifying means making certain of the truth of the report and its circumstance. And its circumstance. We repeat, verifying at-tathabbut. This is a nice word for us. We always got to build our vocabulary. We want everybody who, may have a problem with, pronouncing some letters, sometimes a little tongue-tied. Practice saying this word, at-tathabbut. At-tathabbut. Right? This is what we want. We want to have at-tathabbut in news. Verification of news. So they say that at-tathabbut or verification means making certain of the truth of the report and its circumstances. ويقول الحسن البصري رحمه الله تعالى المؤمن والطاق حتى يتبين. Al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah ta'ala, he says the believer, he stops. The believer, he reserves judgment until the matter is proven. He didn't say the Muslim. He said the mu'min. Because what? When you verify the truth, it's a part of your what? Your what? Your iman. That's why Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. It's a part of your iman to verify that information, that news is correct or truthful or not before you forward the email. Before you send out the text message. Before you do that. And there's some things that will probably surprise you tomorrow, brothers, when we continue this. There's some things that will probably surprise you. Some of the things that the ulama have said about this. After that, the ulama of Islam, they have stated that when the person is attempting to verify the truth after being delivered, after ending, and then they verify the truth, that they also, as an attempt to make sure that they're not going to be considered lying, that they should make sure that that information is coming from the person who is also trustworthy, as we mentioned earlier. We're going to stop here, wallahi alhamd, and we're going to continue tomorrow because tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala, is the meat of what we've already presented this evening. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from this day forward that we verify all news and information. All news and information. Ask Allah to assist us in verifying all news and all information. Because, as we mentioned, this is a dangerous, seriously dangerous affair. It's a seriously dangerous affair of spreading information and news which will eventually become a rumor without verification. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.